franktalks.com.
Relationships, sex, passion. With Dr. Laurie Betito. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Welcome to Passion, a show about love, sex, and relationships. Tonight on the program, dating dilemmas. That means once a month we talk about dating. We focus on dating. So if you have questions, we have the answer. This is our main focus. And every month, Frank Kermit joins us. He is a dating coach. He's the author of over 10 books and a whole bunch of audio lectures. He's also the relationship columnist for thesuburban.com. His website is franktalks.com. And he joins me every month to answer your questions. So, Frank, welcome back.
Well, good to be here.
Always good to have you here. So we want to open up the lines. I know that, Frank, you have your own following on Facebook, and when you announce it, people actually ask questions through Facebook, which you can do on Frank's Facebook page. You can also text in tonight at 514-800. You can also call in with your question at 514-790-0800. And by the way, coming up after 10:30, we'll be speaking about an interesting new dating site called datingfound.com. But they did a really a study, a rather large study with like 3,500 different profiles, and they looked at pictures, and they looked at what was more successful, the types of pictures that people responded to. So we'll find out a little bit about that. Hey, if we can help in any way, that's what we want to do here, right?
Exactly, and I think that's a fantastic study. It's going to provide a lot of great information.
And get good insight as to maybe there's little things we can tweak in profiles and such.
Sometimes the smallest change can make the biggest difference in making a connection.
And I think that's a really important point. I've heard from people who have been online for years. And like I just heard this from a friend not that long ago. Nobody contacts me. She says like, okay, my profile's been there. It's been. Well, maybe it's time to do something. Maybe it's time to analyze that profile.
The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over.
Expecting the same response.
And expecting a different response.
Right.
And this is one of the things I also see in coaching, which is people continue to do the same behavior that has not worked for them in the past. And this is why we try different behaviors, different techniques, different practices that will allow them to make a better connection in terms of what they want.
Right. Sometimes we hold on to the things that we're comfortable with, and we don't really want to stretch that comfort zone. And sometimes adding a bit or being a bit more daring or being a bit more open or being a bit more forthcoming is scary.
Yep. As well as for some people who maybe are very boisterous and are really out there and really in your face, it could be just as scary for them to tone it down because they're not used to taking a softer approach. Mm-hmm. So some people come on too strong. We need to work on them to make sure they tone it down, and they start to feel vulnerable sometimes.
Interestingly, I heard a story from a woman who was telling me that she went on a blind date with someone, and the entire time, so spent 2 hours having coffee, and the entire time the guy didn't ask her one question about herself. For 2 hours, spent time just talking about himself. Almost like a sales job, like this is me, but never asked her age or her status or anything, her job, nothing.
Do women really want to be asked about their age?
Forget the age, but at least whatever it is, you know what I mean?
But let's also remember that for some guys, they see the date as the audition, and they're trying so hard to impress. Look at what I can do. Look at everything I've accomplished. Look at what I can offer. And there are some women who make men feel that that's all they're useful for. So you look at some men who, let's say, try to impress upon a woman how successful he is, how wealthy he is, all the material possessions, and I can take you on these trips. And there are women who are looking for men like that. The same way there are some men who, they don't really know how to connect. They may not even be interested. They're just looking for, it's called arm candy. Mm-hmm. So there's a match for everybody out there, even if it's not necessarily what would be in their best interest or what would be maybe a more spiritual connection. But every method works on somebody.
Right. It depends what you're looking for. But
Exactly.
if, you're being set up on a blind date for the purpose of possibly seeing if could be a relationship, and the person asks you nothing about yourself, there's a faux pas there.
Well, there's a faux pas, but I think it's on the person who set them up.
Why would it have anything to do with the person who set them up? Because
the person who set them up should have had some sort of an idea as to why these two people would have connected. There had to be a reason that person says, well, I'm going to
they're both single. Yeah,
okay.
They're single, and, why not? What could it hurt? But the person who set them up does not know that that one person is going to only talk about themselves and not ask questions.
Well,
come on.
Shouldn't they get to know that? I mean, if you're setting somebody
up...
up...
No, not necessarily. I'll set people up. I'll set people up who I don't know all that well.
But if the only criteria that you're setting two people up is that they're both single,
and more or less
enough.
In the age range, and more or less in the same culture or whatever it is, there's a few things that match up.
Well, there has to be something that's compatible.
I can't be responsible for it.
There's got to be something more compatible. You don't just take two people who are single and say, "Here, go out on a date."
Why not?
Why not? Because you end up in situations where somebody sits there and says, the person didn't ask me any questions.
Yes, but how would I have known that if I've never been on a date with that person, I would not know how they behave on a date. I know how they behave maybe as a friend.
Find out from each person, what are you looking for long term? Give me a list of the criteria that you're looking for in a life partner.
I'm not a matchmaker, Frank. I just wanted to, hand that over. Hey, here's a nice girl. Here's a nice guy. I'm not doing all that work. I'm going to send them to a matchmaker for that. I am not doing all that work. Sorry. I figured, hey, here's two people I know. They're both, nice people. Go have coffee together.
And if they're absolutely adventurous, it's a great opportunity to meet somebody new.
There you go. That's my hope.
But you have to go in with expectations that if the only criteria is that, well, you're single, you're sort of in the same age group, and you're kind of have the same background, you got to go in there knowing that it's got a 50-50 chance of being a great date versus a horrible date.
Oh, even less than that. Look, there's no guarantee that's going to be a great date. My point in telling you this, actually, was that when somebody's on a date, it is not a monologue, as this texter says. Sounds like the monologue is more reflective of narcissism than anything else. Could be, or it could be insecurity. The person doesn't want to leave, just wants to talk because either they're avoiding intimacy and avoiding, opening themselves up even more, because usually that's kind of surface stuff that they share. But to me, it just spells like, okay, you're awkward. Like, you don't know that you're supposed to show interest in a person that you're dating. Shouldn't you be showing interest? It's just logical. And so to me, that person needs to be coached into what it is to be on a date.
But it's not intuitive.
Right. So they got to learn.
They got to learn.
Okay. Right. It's not intuitive. And I think that's a good bottom line. We think it's intuitive. Often we think that the whole dating process and meeting people, but for many, it's an awkward process. And it's confusing, and they don't quite know where they go wrong. They haven't analyzed it at all. So this is, I guess, where you come in.
It's one of the things that human beings just don't learn in school, and that is how to relate to one another.
Yeah.
We will go into education for years for a particular profession, but for something as basic as how to have a conversation, how to relate, how to connect, how to behave on a date, there's
no schooling for that.
There's no schooling.
Like there's no schooling for parenting and anything else. More dating dilemmas coming up next here on Passion on CJAD.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. Frank Kermit joins me in studio as he does the last Wednesday. Is it the last Wednesday? Yes, the last Wednesday of every month. talking about dating and answering your dating questions. So here's one, which is very interesting. Texter writes, should I mention in my profile that I'm visually impaired? It seems that when I mention it, people do not contact me. And when I don't mention it and wait for initial chat and I mention it later, people stop writing. Any suggestions?
Okay, yes, you should mention it, but don't use the words visually impaired. Tell me what you can do. Okay, don't just simply say visually impaired, because people don't know what that means, and that's what's scary about it.
Okay.
Okay, tell me all the things you can do. Tell me the things you can't do. Just give me an idea of what a date with you would be like. So if you can describe that, people will understand where you may have some limitations and where you're completely okay and where it's just not going to be a hindrance. So let's say you're really visually impaired. Something you might want to say is, well, one thing I can guarantee you, that when we go out on a date, I certainly won't judge you for the way you look. I'm really open-minded, and go on that line of thinking. The argument of, well, if I leave it out, I still get to meet people. But if the thing you're leaving out is what is going to deter people later on, even getting into that ongoing discussion back and forth, it just makes it more hurtful. Because
it's also not honest. It's like telling people, how many times have we seen where we don't say anything about the way we look or anything. We hope that the person will fall in love with the person, not the look of the person, but then they meet and it's a completely, they were not told, maybe they were very overweight, or maybe they were handicapped, or maybe something significant about them that they purposely did not say in hopes that it won't matter.
I've seen people do that, even admitting whether or not they have children.
Oh, that too. Like, that's a big one.
Very big. It's not something you're going to be able to hide later on. My advice...
So anything that you can't hide, that you can't keep hiding, should be said.
I will go a step further. Anything that you think that people would not want to date you for, mention it in your profile. The more honest and to the point you are, while still being positive.
Right.
Yes, you may have something working against you. Flip it over. Turn to the positive of it. And as long as you stay positive about it and you can still paint a picture of what that first date with you is going to be like. Granted, you may not get 50 or 60 people knocking on your door, but you don't want 50 or 60 people, because most of those 50 or 60 people knocking on your door initially are going to taper off. But if you get 5 or 6 people knocking on your door, you know that they're aware of whatever it is that has scared off most people, and you can take them as a more legitimate.
And it may take longer. I mean, the reality is it just may take longer.
Yes, absolutely. But most people want the instant results. And I think I wrote about this in the Suburban, on the Suburban.com recently, where it's all about attention, where people are trying to write their online profiles to get the most amount of attention, the most amount of views, the most amount of people contacting them. Sure, it's going to work to get you noticed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that being noticed equals getting love.
Or getting dates.
Right.
This texter says, there's no schooling for shopping either, but I strongly doubt anyone would invest thousands of dollars into purchasing a car without any information whatsoever. Yeah, you need information. I mean, that's the bottom line.
You need information, but you also have to know what kind of questions to ask.
Right.
If you don't know what it is you want long term, if you don't know what kind of lifestyle you want day to day and the type of partner you want long term, and we're talking here for...
So it's just like a car, actually.
Just like a car.
You got to know what features you absolutely need and which ones you can do without.
Exactly. Those will teach you what questions to ask when you're going out on a date. In fact, if you're getting set up on a blind date, since we brought that up earlier, you know some questions to ask, saying, listen, I'll go out on a date with you, but can we talk on the phone first? I got a few questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that might give you an indication as to whether or not you want to go through with the blind date.
That's a good plan, actually.
I know.
Right. Shut up.
That's why they love me.
Yeah. 514-800 or 514-790-0800 if you would like to text your question. Now, we did get some questions via Facebook as well, so you can go to Frank Kermit's Facebook page. Okay, let's go with here. We have been dating for a couple of months, and we are now girlfriend boyfriend for about 2 weeks. My question is, but he isn't paying as much attention. When we are together, it's perfect, but when we're not together, he's not paying as much attention as when we were dating. What can I do? So, what, in other words, once it's a given, like you're my girlfriend, so what? You're part of the furniture now.
Once she becomes his girlfriend, he feels he doesn't have to try as hard. The way to fix this: decide exactly what it is you want, and don't expect it to be spontaneous. Don't expect it to be something that he's just going to do just because. You've reached a point now where courtship is over. You're now in a relationship. You're boyfriend, girlfriend. If there's something you specifically need in order to feel loved, in order to feel heard, in order to feel balanced, you have to express.
Absolutely. Don't think that your partner is going to read your mind, because they're not.
So let's say in this case, she needs a phone call every second day and an email at least once a day. Let's say that's really all she really wants is that.
To keep connected.
Let him know. Look,
Right.
I'd really like to hear from you at least once every 2 days. I'd really love it to get an email every day from you. Just lets me know that you're still thinking about
Right.
me.
And our needs may be different. That's the thing. It may be that his needs are not as much or not the same, and so he assumes that because his needs aren't there, that hers are the same.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we don't read minds. If you have questions for us, 514-800, or you can call in at 514-790-0800, or even if you've got some comments. And coming up, we'll be talking about a new study looking at the top 4 rated profile pictures for singles and what your picture should look like. You'll want to pay close attention if you are online dating. You're listening to Dating Dilemmas here on Passion on CJD.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas tonight on the program. Frank Kermit in studio to answer your dating questions. So if there's anything, please feel free. 514-800 to text in. Okay, here's another one from Facebook. My boyfriend and I started dating a few months ago, and last Saturday he decided to introduce me to his family for the first time. Turns out that he has a brother who was never mentioned. His brother is the same, is the same man that I slept with a few years ago. I don't know what to do or how to tell my boyfriend about this. I love him so much and he makes me so happy. I don't want it to end. Please help. That's a pickle.
Oh, yes, it's a pickle.
Oh, what do you do in that situation?
Okay, you have to make a very concrete choice, and that is, do you tell your boyfriend before you find out if he could handle it, or do you find out if he could handle it first and then decide whether or not you should break up with him? This is not going to be an easy decision. I will tell you this.
But what if the brother tells him before she even has a chance to say anything?
Well, this is what I was about to say.
Okay.
She can't wait and just hope that it never comes up. It is going to come up, and it's better he hears it from her than he hears it from anyone else. Somebody is bound to know. And the brother, of course, might not say anything. He might just be quiet about it. He might not remember it. We really don't know what the context was. Obviously, nothing's come up yet.
Right.
They've met, and maybe he just didn't remember. I will say this. If you have any hopes of a long-term future with this boy, be mindful of the fact that you can't build a long-term relationship on secrets.
Right.
So
Especially something like that.
Especially something like this, you're going to have to make a choice. And look, you might be in a position here because you've only been dating a few months.
Yeah.
Here's what I would suggest. Talk to your boyfriend and bring up the topic about how some people can't handle one another's sexual pasts. See where he stands on those things. Mm-hmm. See if he would have a problem with dating somebody who had been intimate with somebody he knows. Start with that. Now, if he says, boy, I could never do it. I couldn't even date the ex-girlfriend of a friend of mine that when they dated in high school. If he starts talking along those lines, you know he can't handle it. There's no reason that you need to share the secrets at this point. You have a right to privacy, but you do need to end the relationship right there. You have to say, look, we're just not compatible. I don't think this is going to work, and you break up. If he does talk about how, you got to be open-minded, you got to figure out, there was a time, there was a reason, maybe there's
Yeah,
this.
but a brother is a brother. Like sometimes it's, yeah, okay, you can get a general idea, but this is my brother.
You know what?
You'll never know, but unless you say it anyway, you're not going to know. There's still a risk.
There's still
Shouldn't
a risk.
you take the risk if you really care?
Not always, because you have to be mindful about your reputation.
Let's see what other people have to say about that one. News is next, and then more dating dilemmas, and we will talk about the top 4 online dating profile photos you should have right here on Passion on CJD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Tonight on the program, we focus on dating issues, dating dilemmas. We do this every month with my guest, Frank Kermit of franktalks.com. But joining us now, I was reading online, very, very interesting study, which I'd never seen this before. But it's all about profile pictures and the impact that your profile pictures have on whether somebody chooses you or doesn't choose you. And this company did, datingfound.com, did a study, a rather large study, a large number of people, and was able to break it down. We have Karan Danju on the line with us to tell us all about it. Hi, Karan.
Hey, Laurie. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I want to know about this study a little bit. What got you thinking about doing it?
Sure. Actually, to start with, there's no shortage of online dating tips and relationships. I'm sure you know that. And but surprisingly, there's a lack of evidence-based studies. So, we wanted to change that and, integrate science to create the best online dating picture experiment. So this is one of the most rigorous studies done in our space.
Yep.
So for that, we have analyzed over 10,000 images on datingfound.com to determine, the types of images that were most attractive to single men and women, using this online dating site. So we looked at pictures, that were most viewed by people, which gathered the highest number of clicks, pictures that caused the viewers to linger on, and also pictures that cause the viewers to linger on and cause users to more quickly respond to these match requests. So we gathered this pool of 10,000 images.
Okay.
So that's what makes this study really useful for the online daters, because after that we made a template that online daters can use, single men and single women, which will help them get, good attention online.
So to maximize the attention they get online. So can you give us, well, you're going to help our listeners then. What are the top 4 picture types that you came out with that men find attractive and that women find attractive, let's just say in heterosexual situations? Sure.
So to start with the women, we analyzed a bunch of pictures of women, for example, pictures of women showing their left side, pictures of women displaying pride, right side of their face, group shots, selfies, cleavage shots, pictures with pets or animals, and women with pictures with where they were looking happy. So it turns out, after analyzing this huge amount of data, it turns out that pictures where women are looking happy came out the number 1, followed by cleavage shot came out number 2.
Not surprising.
I know.
Okay. So show some skin is really what you're saying. Okay.
That's what data shows.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. It's not you. It's the data. Yeah.
It's the data. Numbers talk.
Yeah.
And then number 3 is fun shots, where women are doing some sort of interactive activities, whether that's music or they're cooking, or maybe they're skiing. So fun shots.
So
and
some action
4,
shot. You're talking about like them doing something else rather than just a posing shot, like just posing, kind of like a passport picture.
Absolutely, because men, they wanted to see their personality as well, right? So this is
Okay.
where you get to see the person's personality, and this is a good talking point when you get to go on a date. This is a good icebreaker.
Okay.
And the number 4 is the left side of the face. This is very interesting.
Huh.
There's a study that shows that our left side of our face is connected with the right side of our brain, which shows all the emotions.
Interesting.
So it turns out if you take a picture from your left side, it's more aesthetically appealing.
I'm going to try that. Yeah, a lot of people say, no, you got my bad side. No, you get my good side. So now I'm going to see which sides are the good sides and the bad sides that people tend to see. That's interesting. So how different is it for men? What men's attractiveness to women is?
It's quite different. And for men, we again analyzed a whole bunch of pictures with the different categories. For example, displaying their pride, and another would be men fun shots, left side, selfies, and social pictures, and all that. So it turns out we have 4 main pictures. So I'm going to say the first one is where men are displaying pride. Whopping 37% of women responded positively when men showed their pride and confidence in their profile
pictures. How did they do
pictures.
that? What was how do you show pride in a picture?
It's like CEO type of pictures with where men are standing tall, chest up, and you're looking more confident, happy, and
Okay.
that displays confidence.
Okay. So confidence. Well, we know that attracts women when it comes to men. Confidence for sure. What else?
Absolutely. And number 2 is fun shots. Again, you got to show your unique side. Women love the photos where men show their personality and interest. Whopping also 32% of a single woman in our study responded very positively to these pictures. So, you got to show your hobbies, your talents, your unique traits that you have, rather than just, posing posing just by
just
yourself.
like that. Right. So what about and did left or right side have a difference here too? Is it the same?
Left side, again.
Same thing.
It's more appealing, and that came out number 3 for men as well. So this is where the data is it's similar to, when it comes to both sexes.
Okay. Interestingly, the last one for guys is the happy. Women didn't seem to care if they were happy or not, but men seemed to care if the women were happy. Just show me skin. I really don't care if you're happy, right?
Right.
Which is interesting. All right. Well, it's you don't think actually I would have never thought about what left side, right side, how much smile, what I'm doing. You just kind of want to. The only thing I always thought was you show a current picture. The mistake a lot of people make is they show pictures from 10 years ago.
Yeah, I see that a lot, even on our website, and so that's why even our matchmakers, they usually go above and beyond to give picture tips to all the singles. And interestingly enough, there's a research also done by eHarmony, which shows that if you upload 4 or more images, that will get you the most attention. Because believe it or not, at the end of the day, pictures are the determining factor whether someone will message you or not.
And it's how
especially
much
when it comes to online dating.
Right, and it's how much you can say in those pictures. I think the message that I'm getting from this study is try to say a lot in the pictures that you do have. Frank, I think, has a question for you.
Just a very quick question. Was there any correlation between the type of picture that was used and what type of relationship it would be best used for?
In other words, were people looking for just sex or a relation?
For example, the number 2 picture of women that attracted the most men was the cleavage pictures. But were those women on the receiving end of attention from men that wanted relationships, or was it from men who just were looking for sex?
Basically, our website it's all about finding the long-term relationships. So all the data and all the singles that are on our site, they are potentially looking to go on a date that will lead them to
Right.
to potentially get married.
So it's more of a serious dating site. Like people looking for relationships is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay. Makes sense. So what, anything else we need to know about datingfound.com? How is that different from any other website?
Sure, that's a great question. See, Laurie, we believe in quality over quantity. So there are three main differences between datingfound.com and other dating sites. First is a human touch to online dating. And when it comes to human touch, we have real qualified matchmakers
Okay.
on the back end who are looking for matches for you. So you will be given a match every 8 days, personally chosen by one of our matchmakers into your inbox.
Okay.
And our matchmakers look at the various dimensions of your profile. They will look at your likes, dislikes, of course, religion, interest, your preferences, hobbies, location, your personality, and also.
So, Karan, it takes away some of the work that you would do, is like that the individual might do, is what you're saying. If people want, unfortunately, we've run out of time. But if people want more information, they just have to go to the website datingfound.com.
Absolutely, sign up on the website. Go to the website and our matchmakers profile are there, and you can also go to the About Us page, and that's where you will get all the information.
Thank you so much, Karan Danju. Thank you of datingfound.com. Good luck.
Thanks, Laurie.
All right.
Pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye. More dating dilemmas coming up next here on Passion.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. Hey, here's a good question for you, Frank. What if you're not photogenic but look fine in person with this whole thing with pictures thing?
Okay, you have to remember that some people just don't look good in photos. For example, someone who doesn't have perfect symmetry in their face, you won't notice it in real life as much because people don't notice those type of slight imperfections. But in a photo, you will notice it. So if that is your problem, let's say you don't have the perfect symmetry, tilt your head so that your eyes look like they're on the same level. That'll make your photo more attractive.
So you have to play around with it a bit. You got to maybe work with somebody, a friend or something, to take multiple angles for you to see.
Exactly. And then find the one that works best. Some people do consider going to get a professional photographer, but you have to be careful there as well. Because if your picture looks too professional, then people might assume that your profile is a fake one and that you lifted the image
from somewhere
else.
Very true. Wouldn't have thought of that. Here's a question for you. My entire life, I've been inadvertently involved in love triangles where I've literally witnessed childhood friends, cousins, brothers, and even fathers betray one another for my affection. Consequently, I wouldn't worry so much about having to be honest in a situation which might end up backfiring. After all, it's in the past anyway. I'm not quite sure what it sounds like there's a lot of situations here.
Okay, you may be in the past, but what I'm not hearing, and if this is something that you're going to bring up on a date and you don't want to be judged for your past, tell me what you've learned from it. Because it almost sounds like, and this may not be your intention, but here's how you're coming across. It almost sounds like you're saying, oh, well, I was involved in that and I'm the cause that all these people did these things. Hold on. Did you reciprocate knowing that they were doing something they shouldn't have been doing? Were you a participant knowing that somebody else that you may have cared about was getting hurt and you're okay with that?
So where's your ethics? It says something about your boundaries, your ethics.
So if you're going to bring it up, and I understand it's part of your past, you only bring that up when you're ready to tell the new person in your life, here's what I learned from that and what you can expect from me from this point going on.
Right. Rather than, I think, the attitude, well, it's all, what's said and done, big deal, who cares, let's move on.
It's saying that it's in the past is simply not a good enough answer because the past will repeat itself unless we know that there's been a lesson learned.
Yeah. Here's another question. I love my boyfriend very much and he loves me. However, sometimes he says things that drive me nuts. I tell him that these things upset me. However, he just doesn't understand that my feelings are hurt. He continues to say these types of things. What do I do? Now, I don't know what you mean by he says things that drive me nuts. Does he say things that are insulting to you? Does he say things that put you down? What,
we
like,
need more
I need more
here.
information than that, because one thing could be he's being silly and that drives you nuts,
Yeah.
or it could be he's putting you down and that's hurtful.
If there's verbal abuse going on, then that's not something you should be sticking around for.
And also, some people don't even recognize what verbal abuse is. It's like, what do you mean it drives you nuts? Like, if something is hurtful to you, something is going on there.
Yeah, but again, we don't know the context, so hopefully this person will write in some more information. If he's just being silly, if he's being a dork, if this is his sense of humor.
Right, if he's dorky and that drives you nuts, yeah.
Then, look, if that drives you nuts, well, he's not going to change, and you're probably better off finding a new boyfriend, unless he really offers you a lot in a relationship, and you're saying, okay, he's a really great guy, but this part of him just gets on my nerves.
That's different. The getting on my nerves is different. But then I'm reading this again, and it says it upsets me, and he doesn't understand that my feelings are hurt. So how are your feelings hurt? By what? What is he doing to hurt your feelings?
Like you said, if he's putting her down, that's one thing. But if she's feeling hurt because she's expecting him to change his behaviors, and he's saying,
that's a different story.
Listen, like I'm saying supercalifragilistic, like, and that's his thing. And she's getting annoyed with that, but he's not changing for her, and she's hurt by that. That's an unreasonable expectation.
Right. So again, we need clarification before we can pronounce ourselves anywhere else with that. 514-800. We do have a bit of time left, so if you'd like to connect with us, you can do so right here at 514-800 by text. You're listening to Dating Dilemmas here on Passion on CJAD.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas tonight on the program. Frank Kermit in studio. Just last little bit of time. Frank, you write for the Suburban Online. So what is this week's article all about?
Well, the current article at thesuburban.com, when it's all about attention, how people's attention-seeking behaviors can sometimes cost them the opportunities to be in a relationship.
What do you mean?
Land them single. Well, let's look at a few examples here. Example number one, you're going on a date with somebody and you're so wrapped up with trying to get attention from the entire room, you end up neglecting your date. Probably not the kind of behavior that's going to make somebody want to date you again.
Well, I've heard people say that, like, you know what, I was on a date with this guy and all he kept doing was looking around the room at all the pretty girls, like not focusing on me. That's a killer right there.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
absolutely.
That's the kind of thing you're talking about.
And sometimes people will take photos of themselves trying to get attention, putting them up on social media.
You mean selfies? Don't we all do that?
Well, there's selfies that you take for fun and you say, look, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. And then there are selfies that people take knowing that, oh boy, I'm going to get a lot of attention for this. It may not even be a conscious thing, but they're just trying to get attention. But those same type of selfies, because they're just focusing on getting the maximum attention, might even turn off some people who are interested in you, haven't made a move yet. And then they see selfie after selfie and they're thinking, I don't know if this is the type of person.
No, they'd be thinking, wow, that person is really into themselves.
Or maybe they're desperate for attention and that's how they're coming across. And you have to remember that your means of getting attention are not necessarily going to equal that, oh, I'm going to attract the large number of people, and then from the large number of people, there's somebody bound to like me. You're better off, especially if you really want a legitimate connection, okay? If you want a legitimate connection, you're better off figuring out exactly what you want and then targeting people who are interested in the same things you are. If you know that you want to move to Florida one day, you're better off mentioning that to people and saying, I want to have the type of future with somebody where we can spend 6 months out of the year in Florida. And you would be amazed how when two people see that they're looking in the same direction and they want to plan the same kind of future, sparks can fly there.
Well, yeah, those conversations not always had on off the bat, but still important.
No, but it's very important. It's the same thing like conversation topics on a date. You don't want to be so general because you want everybody to like you, and to the point where you're not really sharing your true self. You're just trying to appease everybody else.
Or it's like somebody says, "Oh, I love to hike," and they go, "Oh yeah, me too." And they never hike. They've never hiked a day in their lives.
Yeah.
Oh, I love to ski. Yeah, me too. That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. That'll land you alone.
Yeah. Frank, we'll catch up with you again next month. Thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure.
If you need to reach Frank, go to franktalks.com. Franktalks.com. I believe you just released your latest book.
Yeah, my book on speed dating.
There you go. If you want to know, I knew we had to talk about that. Anyway, next time we'll talk about a little bit more about speed dating. Once again, franktalks.com. Thank you all for your questions and for listening in. Thanks to Dave Simon in Master Control. News is coming up next, followed by Joey Elias and The Comedy Show. Have a wonderful rest of the evening, and please remember, life is short, so do take the time to smell the flowers and indulge your passions.
Listen to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD and CJAD.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationships? Visit Frank.